Hello, I'm Carl Yulin Helverson, and you are watching Living Green on a Blue Planet. We've been following last year's Parliament of the World's Religion with an emphasis on environmental issues or Indigenous people. Today we're going to look at a category that I refer to as service and joy, that all these different faiths contribute to the world, the community, out of compassion, out of the pillars of their faith, but also it gives them also a sense of joy. So the first group I want to talk about is the Sikh faith. So Sikh, and apparently if you're a colonial, it's Sikh, but if you're not a colonial, it's Sikh because it's Sikhism. Okay. And this is a faith that comes out of northern India, and it is neither Muslim nor Hindu or Jain or any of those religions. It's its own religion. It's the fifth largest religion in the world. You might recognize them as the folks who have the large turbans and the ceremonial sword on their side because they're spiritual defenders of everybody's faith. They don't cut their hair. They have a bracelet around them that shows the unity of God. They believe in one God. They believe we all worship the same God, but we just give them different names. Anyway, they were very active in the parliament, but one of the things that they did is they had langar. And langar is this free meal that's vegetarian, that's given 365 days a year all over the world, and it's open to everybody. And so there's a particular process. There was a large tent outside of the McCormick Place Convention Center, and you'd go there and you'd be greeted, and then you go inside. You would take off your shoes, you would wash your hands, and then you would have your head covered, and then you would go in. And so you were cleansing yourself prior to having this meal. And it was wonderful because you were sitting down with strangers but leaving with new friends. It was great. And you sat down and you were being served. And the food is all vegetarian. It's different every day. The drinks are vegetarian, and there's music playing, and there was such a sense of community. This is important in terms of social justice because it's a way of providing food for communities who need extra nutrients and calories, but with dignity. They provide it with dignity. It's also environmentally friendly, and so it was a pretty neat experience, and they did it every single day of the parliament at lunchtime, and I made sure I went every single day, not for a free meal, I mean that was nice, but for the fellowship. During the time that you would go there, they would have kirtan, Kirtan, and that is religious chanting. And you'd see them, they'd be up on a stage or podium, stage, and they would be playing the music while everybody was walking past them and eating. They'd see them afterwards. And in front of them was a model of the Golden Temple, which is the holiest site in Sikhism, and that's in the Punjab. Now, I mentioned that's service, but I mentioned joy, and you'll see it in the people who are just participating in the langar, but you see it all over the parliament. It shows itself in terms of dancing and singing and laughing and just friendship and celebrating diversity. Okay, there's I was also involved with the Zoroastrians. I'm particularly drawn to them, and so they had a service there. They had a play, music, and I'm supposed to go meet with a Zoroastrian priest in Detroit to interview him because he's very involved with climate change. So I'm looking forward to that. You'll see me interview a Franciscan, and that's important because I taught at the University of St. Francis. I'm drawn to Francis, like so many other people on the planet. He's the patron saint of ecology, And so to have this friar talk about Francis not as Francis of the bird bath, but of someone who's in tune with creation, the creator, and how we are all related. You'll see the Jains, they often have their mouth covered so that they're not hurting microorganisms. But they also put out a play. They have a common theme with Buddhism and with Francis of repudiation or renouncing. And so making life simpler, being focused on the creator, those type of things. And then finally at the end, there's a display outside called Enough. And it takes all the threads that were gathered at all the different sites that had protests after school shootings and gathers them and makes this large circle that connects all of us with the 34,000 children who have been killed in the United States. And that's powerful out there. Inside, there was an art display where they brought in guns, weapons, no bullets, and gave us hammers and chisels so that you could take and pound them into gardening instruments. Very powerful. So hope you enjoy this particular episode on service and joy.
I came yesterday.
Sorry to bother. This way, sir. Sorry. I have two artificial leaves. Okay. You guys deserve seat down here. This is the Parliament of the World's Religion 2023 in Chicago, and at the moment I am with the Franciscan Friars of the Atonement, and we're going to talk a little bit about Francis and nature, and then Pope Francis and nature. So today I am with
Father Jim Loughran of the Franciscan Friars of the Atonement, based in Graymore, Garrison, New York.
And what can you tell us about Francis? I mean, I'm assuming that he's more than bird baths.
Well, the funny thing is, a lot of people do associate him with bird baths, because of his commitment to the environment, we call it today, I think he would have just simply called it his love of creation. Because Francis was able to see God present in all creatures, and even in things that we might not consider creatures, like the sun and the moon, the wind, fire, and even things like life and death itself. He referred to death as sister death. But he also, as we know from the Canticle of the Creatures, the first real poem written in the Italian language, we have him speaking of brother sun, sister moon, and giving praise to God. Laudato si. Laudato si. Praise you, God, for brother sun. Praise you for sister moon, for all the creatures and all the elements of the earth. It was because of this that Francis saw creation as almost a mirror into the very nature of God. That God is reflected in nature, and that God gave us creation. God gave humanity the dominance, you might say, of this world, so that this world could be kept in stewardship by people, not destroyed by people, not really abused by people, but in stewardship for God, because the world really does belong to God, not to us. And so, just as we human beings find ourselves defined by being made in the image and likeness of God, in Jesus we see the incarnation of God. We see God becoming one of us. And this really affected a lot of Francis's thought. This affected his understanding of the sort of the holiness, the sacredness of all human life, and that we were to use the things of the earth, but also take care of the earth. And so today, when people put them in the bird bath, I suppose they're thinking about attracting birds, you know, from that old story about Francis preaching to the birds and that kind of thing, or the story of the wolf of Gubbio, who Francis convinced not to eat any more people. But it goes beyond that. It's a real commitment to seeing the earth as a gift from God, to always be revered as something that has come from God, and that one can find God by kind of coming out of the material world of human business affairs and whatever, to really taking time to be quiet and contemplative and using the natural elements of the universe to help in that development of contemplation. So Francis is revered today as the ecology saint, and I think rightly so.
So we've obviously gone awry. We're certainly not living the dream that Francis had. And so what has been the current Pope's response to our relationship with creation?
Well, the current Pope took the name Francis, which was amazing. Not just because he's a Jesuit, but because he's the first one to have the name Francis. And I think he was trying to get a message across that the church needs, as he said, to have pastors who have the smell of the sheep on them. He wants a church that is active in the world, a church that is caring for other human beings, a church that is merciful and kind and just. And so near to the heart of the Pope as well is the situation that we have because of climate change, because of the way that we are wasteful of so much. See, St. Francis of Assisi helped us embrace what we call the vow of poverty, so that nothing would be wasted, but everything would be used for the glory of God, and so and to help one another. And so Francis wrote an encyclical a few years ago called Laudato Si, which are the first two words of St. Francis's Canticle of the Creatures. And so, yes, Laudato Si is provocative because it calls to task those who basically deny there's any problem in the earth right now. And he associates it truly with an ecumenical following. He admires the work of the Orthodox ecumenical patriarch Bartholomew. He mentions the Church of England and other organizations, other churches that have tried to bring ecology to the forefront. The care for the earth is part of the will of God. And so also is it the will of Christ, because Saint Francis, as well as Pope Francis, and myself included, although I'm not famous, they really do believe that Jesus Christ came not just to reconcile humanity, but to reconcile the whole of creation, to reconcile us not only with God, but reconcile us with one another, to make peace among human beings, and to make peace with the earth itself. And so, yes, the world itself is being redeemed. This is an ancient Jewish thought that Jesus would have inherited, that we are going to repair the world, we're going to repair what was broken. And so, if we think of eternal life as being eternal paradise, well, that eternal paradise can be reflected in the way that the earth could be right now. And so Francis writes in Laudato Si about the environment, but he also writes about how the way in which the climate affects the economy of human beings, that people are suffering from droughts, they're suffering from hunger, they're suffering from lack of water as a basic item of survival. And so the way in which the poor continue to suffer in poverty is very much at the heart of what some people today call ecological justice. That it isn't about being just to animals and the earth, but it's truly about being just to those of us who depend on the earth for our life. And so Francis, Pope Francis, that is truly following in that tradition that goes back 800 years to Saint Francis. And so I think we need to read Laudato Si, as well as the following encyclical that he wrote called Fratelli Tutti, where he tries to, again, to reflect on how the brotherhood and the sisterhood of human beings, all of that, to see ourselves as responsible for one another. And so just as we're responsible for the earth, we're responsible for one another, because we are truly the children of God. And that's why it's so wonderful to be at the Parliament of the world's religions, because Francis of Assisi and Pope Francis are very, very enthusiastic about bringing the traditional religions of the world together in dialogue, because we all live on this planet Earth, and we all hopefully want peace, harmony, understanding, and an end to war, an end to violence, an end to bigotry and hatred, because people are different from the way we are. And so it's good to be together and make peace at this Parliament.
Thank you.
ગીત પણ ગાયા
મેઘકુમાર રાજનને દુનિયાની સુખની ક્ષણભંગુરતા સમજાવી મનુષ્ય જન્મની મહત્તા અને દુર્લભતા સમજાવે છે અને આ સાથે જ રાજનની નિદ્રા તૂટે છે અને અંતરનું ખુલી જાય છે.
Hello there. Hello. How are you? Yeah. You got a lot to say? Yeah? Tell me about it. One more time. Thank you. Goodbye.